former President Joe Biden has just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Now, this drops just a few weeks after the Robert Hur audio, where Biden struggled to recall basic facts about his son's death, his time as the vice president. And while the diagnosis is undeniably sad, it's raising questions about when did they really know? Is there a cover-up here? If so, why? And honestly, who in the heck has been running the country for the last 4 years? Lindy, I know you're super passionate and raring to go, so take it away here, kid.
Thank you. And my first gut instinct was that this is his attempt at a sympathy play, but this is going 180 degrees of what he intended it to be. The timing could not have been more interesting and more architected from my point of view. I think he had known for years that he has been suffering from something. And honestly, this is just yet another cover-up. It's the latest cover-up in the Biden regime. They covered up his cognitive decline. They covered up his health issues. They covered up everything. The Democratic Party has a tremendous truth problem right now with the American people. And because of their years of lying, they now have forfeited any trust that the American people had in them.
Could I say something?
Go for it.
I think we could surely speculate about whether or not they knew about his health condition, whether or not he had cancer prior to him running for a second term. What I think we absolutely could not speculate about is what his wife knew. And so for me, whether the Democrats did something nefarious to cover it up in hopes that he gets a second term, that's one thing. But the fact that Jill Biden was literally on that debate stage, "We did it, Joe!" All of that rhetoric, when your husband should literally be at home, in bed, recovering, for me, it's more of an indictment on her as a wife than the Democrats when we're just purely speculating whether or not they knew he had cancer. Now, they certainly knew about his mental decline. That much we've certainly ascertained, right? But when it comes to the cancer thing, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Can I weigh on this with the health thing real quick? There's no universe where they did not know that he had cancer. There's a PSA score for men. He has advanced prostate cancer right now. They would have caught this in his yearly physicals. I've interviewed enough oncologists to know that I just find it almost impossible to believe we just discovered this. Now, I don't get the whole timing sympathy thing, and I'm going to pass over here to this side of the table.
I mean, I don't think that this was like some cynical ploy to garner sympathy or empathy for Joe Biden at a time when a lot of people are upset with him and the Democratic Party for the very real cover-up regarding his mental decline. I don't know whether or not they had caught this cancer earlier, he kept it on the down low, and is now going public with it. I have no idea, and I don't really want to speculate on it. What I will say is that once you're caught in the type of lie Biden and the Democratic Party got caught in, I don't really begrudge people for questioning whether this was a diagnosis that he knew about earlier and is now just coming out with it as if it's a new diagnosis. I just think they need to be honest. They need to build trust and credibility among the American people. That's going to take some time. But what I keep feeling from the Democratic Party is just this level of selfishness, this level of wanting to rise up the political ranks without being honest with the American people. And that's hurt the party overall.
I think it's a little late for honesty. I think there are only two interesting things about this. One is the reason, any doctor who looked at him would have known that he had it for 8 years.
Absolutely.
But they couldn't let a real doctor look at him because a real doctor would say he's got Parkinson's, you got to get him out of here.
100%.
So by not allowing a real doctor to look at him, it just went on and on and on and on. And the other, I think, interesting thing is it was really weird that Biden leapt in and wanted a debate in June. It was because his poll numbers were going down. The Reagan-Carter debate was 1 week before the election. If they had waited and done it then, the media would have had to power through and say, no, his performance was fine. He's great. Never seen him better. He might have won re-election, and today Kamala would be our president.
Anne brings up a really good point because I want to talk about that doctor. You know who that doctor was? Kevin O'Connor. This is a family business associate. He had a financial interest in propping up the Biden regime, and that is a fundamental problem here. People lied about his cognitive decline because they wanted power. Let's be perfectly honest about that. Exactly. Jill Biden, and I will name the names. Jill Biden, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan, Anita Dunn, Anthony Bernal. These were the Jeff Zients. These were the people running our country. We had a council of presidents for the past few years. We didn't have an elected president. We had these unelected hacks who understood that Biden was our final gravy train, that as soon as he went off into the sunset, they were done. So they wanted to drag this on for forever.
Can I jump in on that? Because you mentioned all the unelected people who were involved in the cover-up of Biden's mental decline, which is true. But there are also elected lawmakers who are currently in Congress who also engage in that cover-up. Representative Jim Clyburn, who's supposed to be like a sacred cow in the Democratic Party, knew of Biden's mental decline. It's outlined perfectly in that book, Fight. And basically, on the night of the debate, he got a bunch of invites to watch, like viewing parties for the debate. And he said, no, I don't want to go. He decided to watch the debate alone in case he cried over Biden's poor performance. Yes. How depressing is that?
Oh, wow.
That's fantastic.
Well, I have a question on what do you mean, though, the timing is suspicious? I'm not following your train of thought there.
I refuse to believe that Biden found out he had cancer literally did the day before Jake Tapper's book drops. I mean, I'm just sorry,
What's
I can't.
the connection? I
can't.
don't get it.
Because
Jake Tapper's
people are
book,
supposed to feel sorry for him and they won't attack him.
And you know what?
One of them, like Carville, one of them,
I get it.
Axelrod went on TV and said,
Everyone calm down.
criticism of Biden should be muted now.
Exactly.
He's dying.
And Jillian, like,
I get it.
The book's about to come out.
I got it. I
like
understand.
Meghan McCain.
But
But
I didn't know they cared, though. I'm so sorry. I mean, you propped up this guy who's been on death's door for 4 years, and now you care how
To
he
be fair,
feels?
David Axelrod was one of the few people who said that Biden needed to step aside. I like Meghan McCain, but I have to vociferously disagree with what she's been saying for the 24 hours, which is essentially give Biden and the regime a break. No, we're not giving them a break anymore. They lied to the American people. They got us in this leftist woke mess. They need accountability. I'm so sick of
Also, the media figures don't have prostate cancer. Okay, be nice to Biden, but you still got to hold Jake Tapper responsible.
100%. Let me ask you, ladies, what do you think about having some types of mandates in place to check out not only mental capacity, but also physical capacity? Because interestingly enough, Nancy Pelosi and I believe it was Jamie Raskin tried to introduce something in 2020 when they were actually concerned about Donald Trump. That then would have passed on to other administrations too. Anna, you look like you have some thoughts on that.
No, I mean, it's just interesting because the calls for a mental test for the president were loud from the Democratic Party as it pertained to Donald Trump, but obviously radio silence when it came to Joe Biden. Look, there are working class Americans right now who literally have to get drug tested to qualify for work.
Right.
If they have to get drug tested to prove that they are capable to do the job, how is it that the President of the United States doesn't have to pass some sort of physical and mental exam to make sure he or she, in the future maybe, is up for the job?
Well, I think it's a
agree.
bad idea, and it's really not necessary. The Democrats, because they have the media, could power through on this one. But boy, has it come to bite them in the ass.
has.
So I don't think somebody's going to do it again. And I just feel like anything like that, it can be made fun of, it can be manipulated. You get a political doctor, you attack the doctor. Party's just got to be honest about this.
Well, we saw this in the very beginning. I remember, again, because I interview doctors all the time in all different subspecialties. And so many of them were suggesting, like, I think he might have Lewy body dementia.
Yes.
He might have
We talked about the Parkinson's.
Yeah, a form of Parkinson's. Like this, the writing was on the wall for this. So if I could be slightly conspiratorial here for just a moment, and of course everybody jump in and attack me, but I remember back in January 2024, we were seeing people like Megyn Kelly and Dave Rubin talking about the fact that there was a memo leaked and that the goal was to have a debate earlier, to discredit him early enough, to not have a primary, have an open convention, and then nominate the one that they wanted, which is exactly what happened.
Jillian, I want to.
I mean, really?
I don't think that's true.
That's
You
actually.
don't?
Let me tell you what happened. The person behind the debate was a woman named Anita Dunn, and her husband is Bob Bauer, who's Biden's personal lawyer.
Okay.
She was the one who wanted the early debate. They actually believed that he was going to pull it off.
Come on.
They actually.
No
thought,
way.
No, they actually did, and they were hoping. And unfortunately, I mean, everything
How?
went to shit. But let me tell you, things got so bad at Biden events. They confiscated my phone. They put it in a Ziploc bag outside of the venue, and I wasn't allowed to take any video. I was actually called out specifically And they were told, I was told I was not allowed to post anything. I posted an Instagram story. I had a staffer from the DNC chair literally tell me, Lindy, take it down. They were censoring my own personal social media because it made them look old. And they were, the DNC, Jamie Harrison, I will call that MFer out. He was screening questions. He had us submit questions, and he would pre-approve them or not. And he would only pick 2 or 3 questions for Biden to answer. Easy softball questions. And all of us were waiting at the edge of our seat with bated breath, just praying to God that he would be able to finish the sentence.
So you knew about his mental decline during the election,
and
but you continued raising money for his campaign.
No, I didn't. I went on air before the debate, actually, saying that he had declined. And you know what? They called me the night before because they post the Fox News Sunday guests in Politico. They called me and said, Lindy, we know you're the president's most loyal supporter. We know you're going to be loyal.
Wow.
I know, and this is like Tony Soprano shit.
So the first time you spoke out about the Democratic Party was the night before the debate.
What does that mean? Or else what?
But
I think it makes them look too good to say they were trying to get him out. And as various people have said, some people depended on him being president, especially the entire Biden family. Oh, they are SOL now. Every other president retires and gets, $1 million speeches, and everybody wants to read the biography. The Biden family, he's always been the poorest senator, and they're not making any money now. Nobody wants to have him speak. And Anita Dunn and the rest of them, Ron Klain, this was their path to power.
Exactly.
They did fight like banshees to keep him in. They wouldn't have fought that hard if they were trying. But a lot of people thought your theory could be true because, wow, did it happen that way?
It happened exactly the way they had predicted.
But it took
and I was
a
like,
few
all right,
weeks.
that's bizarre.
It took a few weeks. They fought like banshees.
Speaking of Anita, I would get emails from Anita Dunn saying, thank you for your loyalty. Just one line, and it was like they were running a mafia, I kid you not. And in 2023, I'm going to call somebody else out.
I'm going to give you a button after this.
Everybody knows that because they're witnesses. In 2023, I raised this concern about his con decline to Ken Martin, the current head of the chair, and he looked at me like I was crazy. And I had witnesses when I did this. I had Wendell Pierce from The Wire, the shit guy. Remember? Shit, that's him.
Got it.
And then I had my brother and a room full of people saying, David Ignatius had dropped an article in the Washington Post on September 12, 2023, the retreat that we did in Chicago with Kamala Harris is September 13th. And I said to Ken Martin, are you not concerned about Biden's con decline? He's like, oh, no, don't be ridiculous. He made me feel like I was crazy.
I made everyone feel like they were crazy, honey. It's not
Okay,
just
you were right, Lindy. Let's move on to the next topic.
Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.